In retrospect, Jean probably should have been suspicious from the moment that Ella suggested the spa day. She'd been acting weird all week, but Jean hadn't really registered it. And it seemed like such a harmless suggestion at the time. "Got any plans for the weekend?" Ella asked as she sat on the couch next to Jean. "Not that I can think of," Jean replied. "What did you have in mind?" "Steph from work gave me a gift certificate for a couple's spa day. Her fiancé got it for them for Valentine's Day, but they never used it, and it's only good until Sunday and they have a family thing," Ella explained. "We could both use some pampering, right?" "I dunno, a spa day?" "It's not really my thing, I don't like people touching me," Jean said. "It's not just a spa, they do the whole work, hair and nails too. And don't give me that chauvinist, macho BS, your nails shouldn't look like a coal miner's if you're an IT guy," Ella admonished as she grabbed Jean's hand. Jean thought it over for a moment and decided that the most fruitful path would be the path of least resistance. "All right, I guess I'm in," Jean said. "Yay!" Ella put her arms around Jean and embraced him. "It's gonna be so much fun." "But I'm just gonna do the massage and maybe the haircut," Jean warned. "We'll see," Ella giggled. Arriving at the spa, the place was rather nondescript. They entered, Ella went up to the counter to sign them in, while Jean waited off to the side. After some back and forth, Ella walked over to Jean, and they were shown into the back. "All right, sir, you can use this room, and miss, you can use that room." The attendant pointed out 2 rooms on opposite sides of the hallway. "Wait, I thought this was a couple's thing. Shouldn't we be together?" Jean asked. "Yes, but they have separate changing rooms, silly," Ella giggled. "Right," Jean replied. Jean and Ella parted ways, each walking into their designated changing rooms. In Jean's, there was a white robe hanging on a hook, and a series of cubby holes leading up to a divider. "Just get undressed, change into the robe, and we'll be right with you," the attendant said. "And feel free to have some of the complimentary water." The attendant closed the door and Jean started to strip, leaving his clothes in the cubbyhole down to his underwear. He pulled the robe on and sat down in the chair in the room. He reached over and grabbed a glass, pouring water from a pitcher into it. He took a sip, before recoiling and making a confused face. "That tastes weird." Jean inspected the pitcher, noticing that in addition to lemons, there were also sprigs of mint floating inside the water. "Lemon mint?" Jean hesitantly took another sip, then another, until the water didn't taste as strange, writing it off as just a quirk of the ingredients. After a few minutes, the attendant returned. "All right, the massage is ready, if you'll just follow me to the next room." The attendant motioned and Jean followed. In the next room, the attendant pointed to the table, and Jean pulled off his robe and climbed up onto the table, laying down face first and placing his head into the headrest. "We'll get started momentarily," the attendant informed. "Just wait right here." As he waited, he started to feel drowsy. His eyes were having trouble staying open, and all attempts to change position were met with resistance, as if all his strength was being sapped from his being. The door opened once again and the attendant returned with another woman, or at least that's what Jean could tell based on their legs, given that he couldn't lift his head. "All right, this is our masseuse, Agnes, and she'll be handling you from here," the attendant said, patting Jean on the back. Jean weakly nodded in acknowledgement as the attendant left the room. "Did someone spike the water? Is this an allergic reaction?" Jean wondered. As Jean fought for control of his body, he felt Agnes applying goop to his legs, and then pressure being applied to them. What's going on? Jean slurred. Full body wax. Part of package, Agnes stated in a thick accent. Wax? I didn't ask for a wax. Jean started to lose consciousness. Where's Ella? Jean passed out, but not before feeling the intense pain of Agnes ripping the sheet of paper from his leg hair with it. 1 week earlier, Ella was watching TV in the living room of the apartment she shared with Jean. From the bedroom, she heard a ringtone going off. She ignored it. Jean had run down to the lobby to grab the mail, whatever it was could wait. The ringtone finished its cycle. The ringtone started again. Ella paused her show and stood up. Must be important, Ella said, as she started to walk towards the bedroom. The ringtone continued and Ella grabbed the phone off the nightstand, checking the notifications, which were several texts simply identified as from M-Work. Ella opened the phone and checked the message log. Her heart fell. Last night was wonderful, the text read. When can I see you again? Last night, Jean was supposedly working late on installing a new server for the office. Clearly, he had been doing much more than installation for whoever M was. Ella searched her mind for any coworkers he might have mentioned with the first initial M, but she failed to remember any. But in fairness, her mind was scrambled with feelings of betrayal and anger. Ella quickly tapped the contact and called the number. After a few moments, the person on the other end picked up. There you are, lover boy. I was starting to get worried, a feminine voice purred on the other end. Who is this? Ella coldly asked. Who is this? The voice on the other end asked. I'm Ella. Jean's girlfriend, Ella replied. Oh God. The voice sighed. I had no idea. I'm Melanie, I'm a temp in Jean's office. How long? Ella asked. A few weeks. I swear he never told me, Melanie replied. Ella heard the jingle of keys coming from the direction of the front door. I think we have a lot to discuss. Are you free for coffee tomorrow? Ella asked. Yeah, Melanie responded. I'll text you the address, Ella replied and hung up the phone, quickly erasing both Melanie's recent texts and the record of their phone call, before stealthily sending herself Melanie's contact info before erasing the record of that as well. She replaced the phone on the nightstand and walked out of the bedroom. Hey, babe! Ella exclaimed as she embraced Jean in a hug. Anything happen while I was gone? I was only a few minutes, Jean replied. Nope. I just missed you, Ella replied, staring blankly at the wall. Jean's eyes slowly fluttered open as he began to recover from his slumber. He expected to feel raw and in immense pain, given what he remembered from right before he passed out, but instead, his body felt soothed and could feel his skin softly rubbing against the chair he was now seated in. How had he moved? His vision was blurry, but slowly clearing as he heard Ella's voice ringing in his ears. Wakey, wakey, baby, Ella sang. Jean looked up at Ella, who was still dressed identically to how she had been when they entered the spa, even down to having her black hair in the exact same ponytail. Hadn't she gotten the spa treatments too? What's going on? Jean slurred. Karma, Ella replied. It's a bitch, and so are you. What are you talking about? I know you were cheating on me with a girl from the office. What? There's nothing going on, I just fix her computer every now and then. Oh, it's a little too late for that, lover boy, another voice sang from behind Jean. Jean froze. He knew who the voice belonged to. Melanie. Mel, baby, Jean started. Stuff it, Melanie replied as she walked to stand next to Ella. How did you? Jean started. Guess you should have kept your phone with you, Ella evilly grinned. 6 days earlier, Ella waited at the table in the cafe, cradling a cup of coffee as she spotted a nervous redhead walk into the shop. Ella raised her hand and waved the woman over. Ella? She asked. Yeah, Ella replied. Melanie, she replied. I'm so sorry, again. It's not your fault, you had no idea, and we both thought we could trust Jean, Ella said. I've already tried to avoid him at work, but I'm probably only around for a few more weeks anyway, Melanie said. Truthfully, you could have him, but I figure you're as mad about this as I am. Yeah, though it makes sense. He only agreed to meet in the office or at my place, and anytime I asked about seeing he said that his roommate was really against bringing dates home. I guess that's technically not a lie, Ella mused. I'm surprised he's capable of telling the truth. You seem remarkably calm about all this. I was afraid you were gonna murder me. Like I said, not your fault. I wanted to meet so that we could both get back at him together. Revenge? Sounds like fun. What did you have in mind? Well, Ella started. Jean's mind raced as he realized he was entirely at the mercies of the two women. I wanted you to be awake for the waxing, but it was just easier to do all the physical adjustments while you were asleep, Ella motioned towards Jean's body. Physical what? Jean asked. For the first time since he awoke, Jean glanced down and was surprised to see a pair of rather large false breasts hanging from his chest. And while he couldn't see past them, he could feel that his manhood had been hidden away as well. I guess I deserve this, Jean sighed. I'm sorry. Jean started to push up, but found his arms had been bound to the chair with tape. No, you're not. Ella said. Not yet. She motioned to Melanie, who grabbed a piece of tape off a nearby table and smacked it onto Jean's mouth. Jean tried to scream, but the tape muffled his voice. This is just the first step. We're not anywhere near finished, Melanie smiled. But don't worry, you'll have no problems finding a date when we are. Jean attempted to thrash his body about, but found that he hadn't yet regained control of his limbs as he was descended upon by the spa employees while Ella and Melanie watched on. The first thing they did was to lean the chair backwards and started to wash Jean's hair with a flowery-smelling shampoo. After drying it, they matched his hair to a set of hair extensions and weaved them into his medium-length blonde hair, then set them in curlers. Jean was powerless to resist when they started to shape and buff his fingernails, before fitting them with acrylic nail extensions. They started to polish them a bright pink when Ella leaned in. We had such trouble deciding which color we wanted, but I think we made the right choice, Ella said. It definitely suits you, Melanie giggled. Jean whined through his gag as the employees started to shape, buff and polish his toenails in the same shade of pink. Don't worry, it won't be much longer, Ella assured Jean. And she was right. Once the nails were done, they removed the curlers and styled Jean's hair, giving him prominent bangs, then started to brush on makeup. Eyeliner, mascara, eyeshadow, foundation, blush, and to his relief, the tape was removed, but just so Ella could grab his lips and force them into a pursed position so that pink lipstick could be applied to them. This isn't part of the spa treatment, but I knew a friend who let me borrow this just for you. Melanie grabbed Jean's left ear and activated the piercing gun in her hand, before doing the same to the other ear. Ow! Jean exclaimed. Isn't this enough? Not even close, Ella said. Melanie started to undo the tape on Jean's arms. Gene wiggled his fingers as he got ready to make a run for it, when he heard the click of a phone camera. "And if you even think about running, I'll make sure all your friends and family see this," Ella said. "And Melanie will share it around the office." "What do you want? An apology?" "I'm sorry," Gene said. "If you were sorry, you wouldn't have done it in the first place," Ella said. "And we just want to make sure you'll never do this to anyone ever again." Ella and Melanie grabbed Gene's arms and lifted him out of the chair. Gene tried to steady himself, but Ella and Melanie were already fast at work, slipping a pair of pink panties over his hidden manhood and strapping a matching bra around the newly acquired breasts. Before Gene could even react, they had a pink dress sliding up his torso and zipped it up. The dress was tight, forcing Gene's legs together in an uncomfortable way, and making it easy for Melanie to slip his feet into a pair of pink platform pumps. They released him and Gene began to stumble around, trying to find balance in the heels, while coming to grips with his new accessories. He caught sight of his appearance in a full-length mirror on the adjoining wall. Curly blonde hair, kissable lips, alluring eyes, fresh studs in his ears, a tight dress with a killer rack underneath, Gene was a knockout. "Holy shit," Gene remarked. "Is that me?" "Of course it's you, silly. You know, I can't believe you turned out so hot," Ella exclaimed. "Neither can I," Melanie said. "Who knew? All right, you've had your fun. Do I get to change back now?" Gene asked. Ella and Melanie burst out laughing, and Melanie handed Gene a purse. "Not even close, meet us outside." Gina, Ella and Melanie strolled out of the room and shut the door. Gene was forced to teeter in his new heels and due to the tightness of the dress, was forced to mince across the room, where he struggled to open the doorknob with his newly extended nails. "I'm not gonna be able to reverse much of this with these," in the way Gene flexed his hands, inspecting the nails. After making it down the hall and to the front door, easier said than done with his new center of gravity as a result of his chest, Gene stumbled out, watching Ella and Melanie climbing into his car. As he approached, they each shut their doors and Ella hit the lock. Gene grabbed the door handle and pulled, but it wouldn't open. "What gives?" Gene asked. Ella rolled down the window and poked her head out. "We, as in Melanie and I, are going home," Ella said, tossing a pair of keys to Gene that he barely managed to catch. "Those are the keys to Melanie's apartment. You can stay there tonight while we decide what we're going to do with you." "This isn't enough?" Gene asked. "I dunno, I think you need a little bit more punishment, but we'll talk that over later," Ella replied. "I figure you already know the address? Aren't you going to drive me there?" Gene begged. "Nope. That's up to you to handle. Good luck, and don't move any of my furniture around," Melanie chuckled as Ella rolled the window up. Ella quickly pulled out of the parking lot and drove off, leaving Gene, humiliated and alone, standing there. He opened the purse, finding his ID, a lipstick tube, a compact, and, most humiliating of all, a condom. "No money," Gene sighed. "No phone." He knew the walk to Melanie's from the spa was going to be long, but he didn't have any other choice, now did he? He started to slowly walk down the sidewalk, trying to keep balance. His face flushed red, as Gene noticed the stares he got from passerbys, men with hungry eyes, women with envious glares, mothers averting their children's gazes. As he walked, a car pulled up alongside the sidewalk and slowed down. The window rolled down, revealing a man inside the car. "Hey, baby, need a ride?" he asked. Jean weighed his options. He probably wouldn't get far in the heels, but what price would the driver demand for the ride? But more importantly, what horrors awaited him if he walked, especially once it starts getting dark? Jean took a deep breath as he considered his response. Sure, Jean said in his best falsetto as he opened the passenger door and climbed inside. Which way you going? The driver asked. Jean told him the address, and the man started driving. Jean didn't know what fate awaited him after the ride, or what else Ella and Melanie had planned for him. But he did know one thing. Hell hath no fury, like two women scorned.